Welcome and thank you for tuning in. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis. Mother's Day, just around the corner, where all of us honor the love and the spirit and the relationship that we have with mothers, as well as the feminine energy that mothers represent. Mothers are an evolutionary force guiding our times, culture, and people toward a holistic connection with what nourishes and sustains life, our communities, and relationships. Joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program today is a very special feminine energy, if you will. She is a sacred feminine energy leader for an inner Mother's Day pilgrimage into the heart of the mother that lives within us all. I'd like to welcome to the Beyond 50 radio program today our special guest, Sharon Ann Rose. Sharon, thank you for joining us here on the program today.
Thank you for welcoming me, Daniel.
Now, I was told that this was going to be a very special topic and interview that you created especially for this program for Mother's Day. Tell us about that.
Yes. Yeah, when we engage with the energy of the mother, we truly empty out and we come forward to create so uniquely for the very specific situation at hand. And so when I engaged with the question and invitation to create an interview and be interviewed for your program, instead of coming forward with, all the work that I've done or what it is I want to share or notions and ideas of what, mothers wish to hear or what the mother truly is at the core, what I did instead or inclusive of all of this was I deepened so exquisitely so that I could empty out and not be coming from my mind, but that I could be coming from the deepest place inside of me, deep in my womb and deep in the core of my connection to her and my connection to the earth and to all of humanity. And out of that, this interview arises, and it comes from this very primordial place that is beyond words, because it is being created as you and I engage right now in the shared field of heart's resonance and entrainment and ever deeper listening, where we must be in the present, and yet the present is inclusive, of everything you and I thought before, all the preparations we did to join together right now, but it's also that deeper place that holds all of this and originates all of this in each moment.
Now, describe, if you could, for the listeners, what it means to be an evolutionary leader and how this correlates with mothers.
Yeah, we hear the word and term evolutionary leader quite a bit, and how I have come to know it from that inner compass of engaging with the mother and the mother's feminine wisdom. As evolutionary leader is truly one who is saying, I am a direct vessel with what is coming to be. I am truly, the force, the power, the humility that's going to allow transformation and change to happen through me. And so an evolutionary leader really, continues this journey of growing very intimate with the source of spirit inside of oneself. And we hear the term a lot, coming from the inside out, but this goes even more, into a much more primal place where it's truly saying that here we are being created and creating at the same time, and we're going to give our whole selves to that and to trust it. And how this correlates with the mother is because mothers, both literally human mothers, each and every one of our mothers, as well as the energy of the mother, is doing this constantly. And when a woman even is willing to welcome, the birth of creation through her, whether it's a project or a vision or, a child, and this isn't just women, it's also men. Every time we say yes to the deepest place of engaging with life, we are being evolutionary leaders because we're saying we know we're co-creating in this moment, and we are going to honor that, and we're going to give ourselves over to it with total surrender and rooted maturity, real rooted maturity. It takes an incredible responsibility to proclaim that you are the force of evolution and you are, the mother of creation.
Now, what's interesting about when we describe or talk about feminine energy and how we need more of a feminine force, especially in a day and age where there seems to be a lot of aggravation and warring and terrorism and political unrest, and people can't seem to even trust police officers to do at least the fair thing when they're, on the streets, is that we, as you hear about moving into feminine energy, I think a lot of people maybe are misguided by the thought that this means we're becoming soft, when in fact what you're describing is something much more powerful. You were talking about a creative force. You take a look at millennials, for instance, and they seem to embody the essence of what you're talking about here. They don't want to come in and do a 9-to-5 job like the industrial-aged generations before us. They want to be a creative force. They want to know that they're pretty much in charge of their own destiny rather than being led and pulled into one that they don't want. And also for the first time, especially here in the United States, we potentially see the fact that we might have a woman as President of the United States. That's a possibility. So you really see everything lining up, and this is something I remember beginning to emerge as far back as the late 1990s. I was doing a series of talks, especially when it came to spirituality and religion, and you begin to see that surfacing. It was like, here it comes, it's on its way, it's coming with the force of a comet, and I could see this when I'm describing this to people. And you don't know what you're talking about. I said, oh, really? Okay, well, now here we are. And it's very, very obvious, so especially over the last 10 years, how much this has really emerged.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And, I love you describing that, because I know in my journey, both for myself as well as my work with the women, that word alone, softness, had to be and is continuing to be totally transformed, because it is a softened energy, but you're softening actually to what's going on inside of you, not necessarily to what's going on outside of you. Although you begin to learn to hold life in its incredible extremes, from the darkest configurations to the sweetest ones, and you learn to hold that with this vigilance to a softness that's also ruthless. It's ruthless. What it's saying is, no matter what, I'm going to remain connected to this creative source, and we can call it love, but I know love can also throw people, because we have so many analytical assumptions about what love is, but this is the feminine. It's like the utter, and I'll call it terrorizing commitment, because once you commit to this, your life does fall apart. Everything falls apart the way you so sweetly held it together. And then in comes this ruthlessness that is soft. It's a softening and a continual saying, okay, teach me how to begin right here in me with just this acceptance, like you said, the new wave of the next generation. They're the ones who it doesn't matter. They keep putting themselves out there and their visions and their notions and their ideas with this incredible, self-love and assurance and willingness to say, yeah, no matter what, I'm going to keep listening to what's going on inside of me and how I'm being guided. And I have 3 boys. My oldest is 16 and my youngest just turned 4. So I have a huge spectrum of what I've been witnessing, with the next generations. And I'm so grateful my youngest was born last, because I would have just fallen apart, because his will is like nothing else. And I think this is, again, it's these particular words that we assumed meant something, when we really have to keep saying, to this feminine force, show me what this really means. Show me what my will really means and what it looks like and feels like inside of me. And may I no longer listen to what the culture and society has said, because I really want to come from this inner softness that's willing to trust how the creative force moves through me uniquely and collectively, because it's collective as well.
Now, because we have this special message for Mother's Day, and to the thousands of listeners out there, what would you most like to share as a message about the mother that you think is pivotal for society to hear?
What what I would really love for society to hear, and it's not always an easy one to say or to offer, but I offer it in those hands of softness, is that the mother is not pretty in the sense that what we usually call the mother. And a lot of our latest, perspectives and face of what we say the mother is, we've tried to beautify it by our cultural standards. But the mother is so far beyond that. She's gorgeous. Because 1 minute she can be, like we just talked about, ruthless. And that might be, some of the more traditional images that we, see of goddesses, from India and other places. But it's also our own face, as we age or as we go through really terrifying times in our lives when we're so confused and we're really troubled. And that face, too, is the face of the mother, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And so what I want to continue to convey and support in the world is that we break down these notions of what the face of the mother is, of what we think the mother's energy is, and that we really go into ourselves to say, how do I, like the mother, find beauty everywhere and stop trying to put beauty on things, but really open these hands to say, let me receive the deeper beauty of the mother always and in every moment.
You have a very fascinating image on your website at ministryofthemother.org. Tell us about that.
Which image would you be referring
to? This one here is a tree. Very old tree. Now, am I at the right website?
You are.
Okay.
In all honesty, I'm going to be launching my new website on Mother's Day, and that website will be www.sharonannrose.com. But I'm actually just so delighted that you brought forward the image of the tree, and you're so intuitively connected right now, and I'm so grateful for that. But that tree I call the Mother of the Woods, and she's one that's in the city. I live right here in the city in southwest Portland, and we have 15 acres of forest right across the street from us. And it was one of the reasons why we moved to this particular home. And when I began going into this forest, because nature is so pivotal to me and engaging with it intimately, I was drawn to this tree. And my children, the forest was a playground for us, and, we used our imagination as well as our deeper spiritual connection to find names for each of the trees, and, the names would call to us, and we would discover them together. And this one particular tree, the Mother of the Woods, has three trees almost coming out of her, or three, trunks that split off in different places. And she's one that, you can tell people have been doing all kinds of things to her and with her. She's got these wooden planks that have been nailed into her that obviously someone tried to create a little ladder. Folks years ago, it's probably children, put a rope swing off of her, and, my kids as well as others in the neighborhood would swing off of her like Tarzan, and then the city now owns the forest, so they kept coming in and chopping down this rope, and then the kids would go back in there secretively and hang it back up, and it was even a little bit of this battle between the innocence of children, and that wild nature and longing with the controlled desire of the city to really maintain, the way nature looks and what they're trying to bring forward. And so this tree I went to, just with everything I had inside of me, both my joys as well as my challenges, and just constantly would ask her, please guide me, please show me the way to truly be a mother, the Mother of the Woods, and the woods being a symbolic term as well as energy, the woods really being that place of chaos inside of us where we're just like, whoa, how do we get out of here? But the woods also being the place where nature naturally knows how to harmonize and grow collectively. And so she's my statue of what the mother truly is, and she's who I go to, for true counsel and guidance. So thank you for bringing her in so beautifully. It means a lot to me.
Well, it's a great image because when you think of the wisdom of a tree, that you begin to realize, well, that's really what we're talking about here, is not only being able to connect with the wisdom that we inherently have as men and women. But it's also going into a deeper presence, being able to embody and claim and feel the feelings that you have. Because especially for men, they tend to kind of put emotion aside as though you need to be a man. You don't need to experience what it feels like to feel pain. Anger probably because we feel that's a motivating force toward creativity. Well, that hasn't gotten us very far. But the fact is, you're also speaking to a deeper nature that I think especially men can really pick up from this, and that is learning to be guided through your heart with intuition, which seems to be an extremely powerful characteristic of the feminine.
Yeah, and I love, you as a man just pinpointing this so exquisitely, and as you were even speaking, yes, it's it's like a warrior. When we look at a tree is a warrior. They are rooting in with everything, and we, even though yes, we can, we've certainly seen scientific images and other things about how deep roots can go, but they can go so deep. Some roots I've seen where they travel and how much they are entwined with is shocking, just shocking. And then, as you just said, it's this very dual nature, because not only you're rooting down and descending, but you're also ascending and opening outward at the same time. And this is, the pose of the warrior. It really, really is being willing to say, yes, I'm going to remain rooted here. And like you said, with an open heart. And I know that for me, I came into the world so deeply attuned to nature and to the collective, and I have these, blessed gifts that were not always seen as blessed, whether it be by me or those around me, because they were excruciating. What I was, able to do is I could feel everything because my heart was so open. And this isn't particular to me. This is the way we come in. Our hearts are so open. It doesn't matter if we're girls or boys or creatures or plants. We are wide open. And, mostly what we learn is how to close down. We learn boundaries. These things are important in good measure, but we never learn this other thing, that the tree actually is what can be a role model to us, and that's to remain rooted and open all the time, and how to continue to live and flourish and, engage with life so fully, even when we are taken down, totally taken down. And how do we just remain, willing to be the tree that decomposes so that, new life can spring forth.
I like that you talk about a tree as being warrior. And I was reminded as soon as you said that of growing up and going to Northern California to the redwoods. Now, you consider this is a tree that's thousands of years old. Many forest fires blaze through there, and these things continue to stand and thrive and survive. And it's a pretty amazing, powerful image when you think about that. Now, as we consider that, you see that real inherent power. You were talking about how we come into this world open-hearted, open-minded. It's sort of what I love to call this day and age. If I'm ever out for walks, especially in downtown, I see puppies and that enthusiasm and that zest they have for life. They just got to get involved in every little thing, and I love seeing that, and I think, boy, if there was a way to harness that and put it into all of us, I mean, even people who have been jilted and jaded, that life would just transform in such an amazing way because of the way that they see life, that enthusiasm they have for it. Now, you consider as we get older, when we move away from that childhood innocence that we had, then a lot of times it comes in layers, where we experience fear, self-doubt, distrust, and ultimately when we have made mistakes, there's also that feeling that we should be ashamed of ourselves, as though we somehow knew there was a way we were supposed to act in that moment before the mistake was made. And you see this happening in layers with people, and you can even see it in their eyes. It's almost as though not necessarily life has gone out of them, but certainly that enthusiasm, that spark seems to have at least been I guess, smoldered, if you will. And getting back in touch with this warrior to rise up above that and start breaking away those layers and say, yes, I experience these things, but those sums create the power of the whole of who I am. I would think that's pretty much the best way I can think of describing how you work with people, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's so beautiful. So beautiful. And I think the piece that it took me a while to really root into was, again, this journey of what we're calling softening. It's an internal softening. And things do happen to us, and they're really painful, and I was one of those exuberant young ones who retained her energy and exuberance for a very long time. And it wasn't until, it was actually quite recently, it was in the past 6 years, where just things in my life took me down. I have a family of 5. We engaged with financial dissolution. I had a lot of medical and physical things occur that really, struck me sideways. And it was just really, really hard to continue to maintain this exuberance and high energy. And what I did actually discover was it wasn't so much this high energy that I was longing for. It was that deeper knowing of what you just spoke about a little bit, was how do I just trust that too? And just trust there's something growing through all of that adores me, really adores me. Mm. And so it's that place of, again, this softening, this rooting, that it's okay to become jaded, but then not to shame ourselves that we're hurt and we have lower energy sometimes, and we go through cycles like the forest, like trees, like the seasons around us. We go through winters, we go through autumn, we go through spring, we go through summer, and this can even happen very quickly in just the course of one day, that we're going to feel many, many things. And life, when we really let it in, is going to, it's going to wreak havoc on our tender, innocent exuberance, like you said, on our puppyhood. Mm-hmm. But if we allow that while still saying, and I trust this, and now I trust this too. And we don't force our hearts open, nor do we try to overcome those moments. We do what we got to do. We might have to cave in for a while, or, snuggle into the bed and really let the people closest to us know, I'm really going through my winter right now. This is tender. This is painful. I need to just be here, and my energy might be low. And I think what I began to discover was there was a maturity that was arising that was actually becoming the internal protector of my innocence, so that I was learning, instead of just randomly, like a puppy, just running around with that exuberance, I wanted to give it as a gift in the moments that felt really accurate. And those resonant moments are not coming from a judgmental place, like, oh, this person, yeah, they need it, or they deserve it, or, oh, no, that person makes me uncomfortable, I'm not going to give them that. It more was a moment-by-moment honoring of where I was, in my process. And when did I really have the gift in my hands very fully, really ready to pass it on and say, please, here, I would love to share this with you. I would love to share my innocence and my vulnerability with you, and then totally let go. And this is, exactly what I work with people, and it's holding that space so that we can learn how to keep saying, I trust what's going on in my life. I trust it deeply. And how do I allow, all those thoughts otherwise, which often are about distrust and shame and shaming ourselves, shaming our lives, shaming what's happening to us, like, ooh, we should have done better. I shouldn't have had, our finances just bottom hole out. I should have known better. It becomes, oh, you know what? When that happened, I learned to treasure life so deeply, to really access the riches that the world is never going to give me, ever.
Right.
But they're inside of me. And, it's exactly the place that, people, in all honesty, we really long for that, because we're not going to get what we most long for from the outer world ever. we really are here to bring it to the world, bring those open hands of softness that say, here's my life, and it's a gift. Please feed from it, take from it what you can.
Faces of the Mother is the title of a book that is due out later this year that you have authored. Tell us what people can expect from this.
Yeah, Faces of the Mother is my first book. And, from when I was young, I knew I was going to be a writer. And yet, and I've been writing in all kinds of forums and ways. I've been an editor for local publications as well as a regional magazine for Spiritual Path for Family Living. And I've been writing, through my website and to my community and doing, other writings from articles and things. But in all honesty, when I really faced that longing to write my first book was when I truly went through hell and back, because it was, the willingness to face my dreams and then to also say, and this is my greatest gift. And so, I'm going to go through whatever I need to go through to accomplish this and allow it to ride its course. And so I knew I was going to need some support by my side for this one. I knew it was going to be a doozy. I knew I was going to face a lot of tough internal stories. And so I welcomed, a group of women and asked different women in the community that I have initiated to come forward and join me, on this pilgrimage into the, the real deep heart of the Mother, into the face of the Mother. Because whenever we go into that energy of the deepest feminine, it's always collaborative and it's always collective, while it's also very rooted, in yourself. And so women came forward, and I called them Sacred Life Artists, and we journeyed, with these alchemical faces of the Mother, and each woman got one face of the Mother, and she journeyed with that very intimately through prayer and creativity and whatever her artist medium was, whether it be song or poetry or painting or sculpture or writing or baking or parenting or lovemaking, whatever her, artistic medium was. And she journeyed with that and that expression and just asked, these archetypes of the Mother. There are 13 of them that had come through me. And just asking, what is the deeper wisdom of this? And how can I just allow this to imbue me with an expression? And then each woman created a face for the Mother. And so what I had wanted to do was really break open the pigeonholing that we do when we call forward the Mother, or we talk about the Great Mother, or the Divine Mother. Again, we come from a pretty old, outdated place of what that energy is. And so it has to be intimate, it has to be personal for us to really allow the expansiveness that our culture is longing for. Because when we allow that expansiveness of the Mother's understanding of life to come through each of us, then we become those unconditionally loving beings, because we no longer are saying, ooh, that's good, ooh, that's bad, this is right, this is wrong. We become this wide open force that says, oh, it's all beautiful, and how am I going to courageously engage with it? So this first book is an intimate look into the literal journey that we did, myself with these women, and that took a little bit more than 3 months. And it gives both a bird's eye view of what occurred and snippets of this incredible artwork and passages that these women went through. It shares the prayers that I allowed to come through me and the meditations. And it also shares an overview of creating through the feminine way, which is very different than what we've understood creation and manifestation to be, because it's very unique to each of us. We've, especially in New Age circles, we hear a lot about how manifestation works and how it should work. And, hey, just do this and you'll get everything you want. But the reality is, as I discovered, we got to face some really deep things to begin to honor and acknowledge, creation's been happening through us since we first formed in the womb. Like, why would I ever discredit that? And I'm creating constantly. We're that powerful, but we've, keep telling ourselves this isn't what we want, but our lives are what we want. We just have to continue to hold that and say, we are creative, source, intimate partners. And this is what this book was really about for me. then it also shares, what happened once the journey with these women was done, and I really started to root in and said, okay, I'm hunkering down now, and I'm writing this book. And, it was that gentle yet loving ferocity of the mother. It was like, oh, you really you're going to write this book? Have you really, deepened into this longing to be a writer and what that means to you? And are you going to be raw and vulnerable and share the truth, about how creation comes through you and what you witnessed through these women? And so, it's been such a journey and a beautiful and raw experience of creation at work. This book is a living testament to what I can only hope and dream really frees others up to see and engage with how creation actually comes to be through each of us.
Well, that's certainly a lot of wisdom to be sharing with our listeners here today, and I'm sure as they embrace that and begin to settle into it, they'll realize just how insightful that is to be able to live the way that you have suggested for our listeners as well. And it's been such a pleasure to have you on the program. I'm wondering how, now we gave out the website earlier, I'd like you to give that out for our listeners and, and how they can be in touch with you.
Wonderful, thank you. So, yes, I'm going to be launching a new website, which will be coming out next week, and that website is www.sharonannrose.com. And Sharon is Sharon, Ann is ANN, and Rose is ROSE. And through that website, you'll be able to find other resources and ways of connecting with me. And then my former website, which is still on and live now and will be for a while, is ministryofthemother.org. And that is it's a sweet ancient preview into all that was laid as a foundation, to really continue to tend and grow. Like you said, this warrior tree, which it takes time to come into our work and into our creativity and into this maturity that is going to, stand true to our hearts and to this exuberant puppy innocence that really is inside of each and every one of us, no matter what occurs through our lives.
Well, Sharon, thank you for bringing the light to our listeners and sharing that wisdom to them as well. Thank you so much for being on the program today.
Thank you, Daniel. Many blessings to you.
You as well. We want to thank you, the listeners out there, for tuning in. You can discover more by visiting us at Beyond50Radio.com. That is the number 50. And also follow us on Twitter at Beyond50Radio.com as well. I'm Daniel Davis. Thank you for tuning in. This is the Beyond 50 Radio program. And remember, live your day past halfway.